Ever wanted to know what it'd be like to find your voice and learn how to express it? What if you were able to be okay with not being okay and telling that story? Stay tuned to learn how.
Right. And I've said this before, it is okay to not be okay. It is.
Hmm.
You step away if you can't just be in that place at that time. Step away and come back later, but just continue to keep showing up.
Today's show is brought to you by Combat Flip Flops. If you believe in business over bullets and want to support a veteran owned business that was good enough to have Mark Cuban from Shark Tank invest, check out their footwear, accessories, and apparel that are manufactured in Colombia, Afghanistan, and Laos. And if that isn't good enough for you, ambitious vet, they have proprietary rubber outsoles, proprietary EVA mid layers, and a lifetime warranty on top of that. Check out combatflipflops.com. If you find anything you like, make sure to enter in code AMV Network to get your 25% off your order. Again, that's combatflipflops.com. Welcome to the Ambitious Vet Podcast. I'm Chris, Marine Corps combat veteran turned social entrepreneur. Here I dive into the trenches with today's most ambitious, goal-oriented, and growth-minded military veterans on the planet to empower you with the golden grenades needed to break through new levels of satisfaction, fulfillment, and success after stability is no longer a challenge to overcome. Buckle up, ambitious vet. It's time to break through new levels of success.
It's time to get into the trenches, dig into your purpose, and fire up your life's fulfillment. The Ambitious Vet Podcast starts now.
What's going on, Ambitious Vet? We're right back inside the trenches with Annette Whittenberger. Annette is a military spouse of 22 years, mother to a daughter, Haley, and a son, Blaze. She's also a veteran who served in the Army for 17 years and 4 months as a chemical officer, including a deployment to Iraq and Afghanistan. She retired and decided to become an accidental entrepreneur to be able to make up for the lost time with her children and use her voice to share her story about real life after the Army and living with mental illness. Since her retirement, she has relocated from Fort Polk, Louisiana, to Fairfax, Virginia, to support her husband's military career. Her blog, A Wild Ride Called Life, LLC, incorporates stories from her post-military life in which she shares how she lives life as being a mom and military spouse living with PTSD, anxiety, and depression. Along with writing, Annette, she also hosts a podcast titled The Truths We Hide, in which not only does she share her story, but she also has guests who share theirs and offers advice to others to help them understand they are not alone. Annette also has a passion for volunteering. She volunteers as a mentor for TAPS, Assistant Program for Children Survivors, the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and the Trauma Survivors Network. Annette, you are a busy woman, and thanks for your time. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's really an honor to be on here.
Wow, the honor's all ours. I mean, when we were talking before, just your story, how you were able to get beat up by life but continue to push forward. I think we all can relate to it. I'm really excited around how we can just educate these ambitious vets, maybe you that's listening to this ambitious vet, around how we can, inspire you to potentially become an accidental entrepreneur in the space of COVID-19, and also just figure out how special you really are. So, Annette, go ahead and fill the gaps of the introduction. Let us know something about, you that is something that not a lot of people know about.
Well, you hit on it with the statement of accidental entrepreneur. I had no intention of doing that. Before I retired, I had a plan in my mind. I was going to do 20 and I was going to work with the soldiers just in a different capacity. And because I retired not the way that I had anticipated, which meant that I didn't get picked up for the next promotion list to lieutenant colonel. So that absolutely put a damper in my plan, and I was actually very taken back by it. I became really depressed. And so all the things that
Mm.
I had suppressed throughout the years from my childhood on into my adult years, it overcame me. And so as I was in that dark place, I actually had a friend and a former soldier help me to get back up. And that's where the accidental part came in. I started writing. I created a blog. I started to use my voice in ways that I never had before because as a soldier, we are raised a different way. As a child, we are raised to keep our business in the house, and as a soldier, you tend to do the same thing. You just try to be tough. You try to be uh, almost a different person because you don't want to be seen as weak. And so that's where I started writing, but in secret because I didn't want anyone to really know what I was going through. But then I decided, you know what? I if I want to continue to be present for my kids, to be present in life, I had to do something about it. And so that's where a wild ride called life came from. I decided to publish it. I decided to just share it with the world, really, and it was terrifying. I didn't know how it was going to be received, but then, the further I put myself into it, the further I started writing and sharing, I started to just realize, I can't care anymore because I spent decades hiding those feelings. And if I'm going to be able to, if in order for me to go through my own self healing journey, I also wanted to help others because now I knew what was wrong. I knew what I was doing, and I had to almost be that person that says, "Hey, I I get it. I totally understand how it feels, and I'm here for you, and let's do this together."
Yeah, here's the thing is I acknowledge you just for being able to step out like that, right? Because I think a lot of us military members, when we get out, we're still taught that like vulnerability is weakness. Weakness is, pain is weakness, leaving the body, don't share it, act tough, have this hard outer shell, right? So for you to start speaking your voice, that had to be scary, right?
Oh,
It had You didn't know probably how that was going to land as being this, killing it commissioned officer in the army to now, okay, this is what she was really dealing with, right? Yeah, I mean, you got to be afraid to be judged, right? All that fear sets in.
no,
What was
absolutely.
that like? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what it was. And even along the way, I did lose some people that were in my life because they either didn't know how to take it, deal with it, they didn't know what to say. There's all kinds of things, and I can't really fault them for it because what would you do? Not it. You almost have to be taught how to deal with that, and you almost have to teach someone how to deal with it.
Mhm.
So it was hard.
Yeah, I can only imagine, right? I mean, it's not easy to, open up, share the skeletons in the closet per se. I've personally done that once my pride and my ego exceeded my bank account. That happens one of the first few years when you get out. And yeah, it is. It's a scary moment. You start losing people in your life. But here's the cool thing: the Brene Browns, the Simon Sinek's, all these self-improvement, leadership development gurus that we're all studying today, they always, just hone in on and hammer in that message of vulnerability builds trust. If we don't know what you're really dealing with, right, or what you really care about, I mean, it's tough to even know how to collaborate, in my opinion. I mean, I think in the military, from my own experience, I mean, I've been out for 9 years now from the Marine Corps, and you can piggyback off this and that, but it was a long, ongoing process. But I mean, every time I got vulnerable and found ways to peel back other layers of my pride, my ego, trying to have it all together, I got a deeper connection with people. And I started surrounding myself with other people that knew how to communicate that way. And then things started moving faster, right? I mean, how was that experience for you? Once you start opening up, start losing people in your life, and what was that experience like? And how did you get ahead of that?
No, you're so right. We have so much pride when we serve in the military. We think when we get out that we don't need anything. We don't, I've got this. I don't need help. I don't need to talk to anybody. I just spent all this time in, I've got this all by myself. And, and then it just, it hits you hard and you have to finally realize, okay, I don't, and I need help and I need to talk to somebody because all that hard-headedness, all that pride, it consumes you until you finally peel back a layer piece by piece and start being vulnerable and start speaking up and start sharing, and you start to surround yourself by a different crowd. It's almost like you find your tribe again. That military family that you had that you thought you lost, it's there. You just have to be open enough to get back out there and find those people. And so that's what I had to do again after I isolated myself, after I, was boo-hooing and feeling sorry for myself. I was like, okay. And so I did. I found my tribe again, and people who understood and encouraged me and rooted me on and motivated me, and it was just it's a whole different feeling. It absolutely changed my life to be around those people. I no longer had to worry that I was going to be judged or even care that I was going to be judged because I had these people who were there for me fully. And I could reach out to them anytime. And that's how I decided to be the entrepreneur that I am now, because I had those people that were all in and pushed
Yeah.
the way I needed to be pushed.
That's so cool. And I think you're starting to learn this just based on a few conversations that we've had, but also for me over the past couple years is growing into an entrepreneur because it takes different skill sets, right? It's not easy being an entrepreneur. It just isn't, right? So quite often, sometimes I'm just like, whoa, am I an intrapreneur? Right? Sometimes I'm like, hold on. But yeah, I mean, I find that the most high performing people in the world are the most vulnerable for the most part. Yeah,
Right.
because it shows emotional intelligence. Don't you think?
It does. And, there are, I think within the past 2 years, we have seen so many types of entrepreneurs in it for, I dare say, the right reasons or the wrong reasons. There's a little of both. And I think that goes with anything, but it isn't easy. But I think once we find our passion and why we're really doing this, we'll continue to show up each day.
Yeah.
Really have to dig into why are you doing this? Because in the beginning, it can't be just for the money. It cannot.
It's so true.
You need to find why are you doing this. So once you find your why and you keep going after that, then everything else it'll fall into place. But you have to have patience and you have to be that resilient person that you were in the military.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I want to shift gears around because, when we talked in our pre-interview, right, I was describing what an ambitious vet is. And you were like, man, that's me, Chris, that was me. And so often do we get out with this huge vision, right? And we realize that our human capital, is not sufficient to fulfill on that big vision, those goals that we're getting out and we're envisioning right when we get out of the uniform. We get crushed by potential life very quickly due to pride, due to not knowing how to build tribes because we're used to just tribes being provided for us, community, in other words, and just stuff like that. And then we find out that, immediate transitional tools like resume writing, interview prep and stuff like that don't give you what you just described, Annette, like that satisfaction, that fulfillment, right? So I want to ask you, I mean, you've hit on it a lot, but what were some of the key milestones once you started discovering like who you were, because I really get a sense of like you discovered who you were with this journey with the wild ride called life of launching that in your podcast. Walk us through some key milestones once you started, realizing that, hey, I'm an ambitious vet and I'm going after my visions. Walk us through that process.
The biggest milestone for me, it was to admit that I was dealing with PTSD, depression, anxiety, and finally stating that I was no longer going to suffer from it, that I was going to live with it, and ways for me to be able to do that. And I think that's one of the hardest things to do for those who are currently suffering from one of those three mental illnesses, is to actually say it out loud, and not let that stigma consume you. It's so hard to do that. And so once I was able to do that, it was like, wow, it was such it was such a relief.
Yeah.
I I said no more. This is me. And who's ever in my circle that wants to stay here or has continued to stay here, then that's exactly who I need. And so I think those are the biggest things, and that was it for me, is being able to do that, finally seeing who not deserved to be around me, but who wanted to be around me. And I had to just continue to be authentic. And I think that's another huge thing, is I was just going to continue being me. I wasn't going to pretend to be anybody else. I wasn't going to fake it to, grow this business that I want to grow. I was going to be me the whole way. And that's how I included or started to surround myself with so many other authentic people as well.
Yeah, no, that's good. What I hear about in that is like you just started learning how to accept yourself for who you are, who you're not, and not resist, this label. Because I think I got like 50% disability and was labeled generalized anxiety disorder. And yeah, I could have chose to embody that, right? Or resist it. And I heard that you just, you accepted it and kind of was just like, yeah, doesn't mean anything about me. There's nothing wrong with me. And you just started sharing, you started learning how to shape your story and surround yourself with people that appreciate it.
It I did, and it took time. So if
Yeah.
it didn't happen. It took me years to be able. I mean, I'll be retired 4 years, November 1st of this year. It took me 3.5 years to be in this space. So it takes time, and it was hard. And there were days where I was like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
Maybe I should just pretend again, put on that mask that I was wearing forever. But I couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it takes more energy, I found, to like pretend and try to act like you know it all and have it all together and, posture, right? So that's great. It's great when you can just find ways to slow down with your life and kind of just like, hey, I'm good, and just be in that peace, right?
Right. And I've said this before, it is okay to not be okay. It is.
Hmm.
You step away if you can't just be in that place at that time. Step away and come back later, but just continue to keep showing up.
Hmm. Yeah. What do you keep showing up to when you say that? Like, what show up to?
I show up for all those who are watching, who are listening, who are reading, because once I started to receive those anonymous messages, or just those messages from Facebook or the website, or wherever, I realized there was always people watching and reading and listening. So I
Hmm.
needed to continue to show up for myself, but for them, because they were waiting for something else real for me to share. Just, I had a bad day today, or raising teenagers is hell. It's, so just like I'm inspired by others, others are now inspired by me. and it was a little nerve-wracking because it was a, I felt at first it was pressure, but now it's showing up.
Mm,
Okay, I need to keep coming back because we are relying on each other now.
yeah. How's that experience like going from feeling like you were broken, depressed, dealing with anxiety, PTSD labeled, right? Like a lot of us are when we first get out,
Yeah.
not being seen as a strategic asset, right? How do you go from that to, you know, people being inspired by you and still not trying to like pretend like you have it all together? You get what I mean by that?
Yeah, it feels so much better
Hmm.
because they're gonna get the real me. I,
Yeah.
if I'm not on social media, it's because I needed a break, and I think that's one of the hardest things about doing what I do as far as a podcaster and a writer, and I share it all on all the social media sites. It's hard for me to say I'm not posting anything today, but I'll come back and I'll say, look, stuff that the struggle is real, as we all say. It's I had a day. I had
Yeah.
moment and I had to step away and I went and watched Netflix or I hung out with my son, whatever. I had to walk away and I'll be back. And
Yeah.
I wanted people to know that that was okay to do.
Hmm.
You don't need to feel that pressure of always having to post and always having to have a status or a like or
Hmm.
it's okay to not have that. It's not, it shouldn't be all about that because you don't, there's always somebody watching you and just be you. And it took me a
Yeah.
long time to do that.
Yeah. It sounds like once you tuned into that, like the influence came,
Yes.
right? Things started coming. You found your voice. You found you being special, right? Which is challenging too, right? Because when we first get out of the uniform, we are ambitious as ambitious vets, right? We have this big vision. We have some big goals, and we start getting crushed by life. We start being told by hiring managers that you want 100K salary. Come on, you're more like 50K, you know?
It's soul crushing.
Right. You don't have this credential, you don't have this degree, whatever, right? And yeah, I mean, what the fact of the matter is, what I have found in my experience, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, I find that when you're ambitious, the world does resist you, right? And it's like, how do you not get crushed by that resistance and still find ways to improve throughout the resistance of becoming more out of the uniform, right? Because you found your voice in the face of a lot of pressure, probably a lot of friends that were just like, no, you're that army, you know, officer, right? So how did you find your voice and all that noise, and how did this a wild ride called life become?
The people that I found, my tribe helped me. I it's I can't even explain it. It's once I found those people that understood and that motivated me anyway and didn't say, "Oh, well, she's disabled," or because I think really quick, I think one of the hardest things is as a disabled vet, however we retired, medically retired, or just regular retirement like myself, if they don't they forget the invisible wounds. Okay, so we live with all these things that nobody really knows about, but once I had the people who didn't care about that, who were there for me regardless, that changed everything for me. And I kept waking up and I kept going, you know what? I could do this. And if I feel like I can't, I know somebody who will get me back into it again. And I
Mm,
think that's one of the hardest things because the transition from the military to out of the uniform was so hard. We are, they don't prepare us mentally. They try to prepare us with the resume and how to dress and how to speak and what job you should go for.
mm,
So it was really hard, but it's the people and the people that have reached out to me saying, thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for sharing that story. That really did something because I know that I wasn't alone and I needed them to know that they weren't alone. So that really just, it just, it warmed my heart because I was here for a reason, because I am a suicide attempt survivor, and I was here for a reason, and I started to realize that the
Mm,
more that I was able to help somebody, that I never thought I would be able to help somebody. I really didn't. I thought I was so broken that there was no way I could mentor somebody or help somebody through their own struggle. So once I started being, having these conversations with other people, it did. It changed everything for me, and then seeing my own kids who are 20 and 17 now, I had to be present for them because in this society, these kids are going through the same thing. And so I needed them to look at mom and say, okay, we understand that she went through these depressive episodes and her anger and her rage, but she pulled through, and now she's communicating better and she's listening and she's really hearing me. I needed them to see that.
mm.
And I think, and that's definitely another reason why I continue to do this, because I need them to know that it's okay and that I'm using my voice to stand up and to help other people as well.
Yeah, that's great. So let's kind of dive into that section of it, right? You found your voice, you realized that you were special, which is absolutely amazing, right? That's one of the biggest breakthroughs I think any ambitious vet can come to realize being a few years out is, yeah, I mean, you are an individual. It's fine. It's time to find out what your gifts, talents, and what you can be known for in the marketplace. And you did a great job of that. But now let's shift gears around how are you trailblazing that pathway for other people to have their voice be heard?
So within the website, it was, for me, it was supposed to just be a blog. I didn't realize where it was going to go. So I have created that space for people to, if they want to be anonymous, they could share their story on there, or even with the podcast. I knew that I wanted another place for people to come on and share it. This wasn't about me. In the beginning it was me because I was feeling sorry for myself, but now it's not just the military. It's there's so many other people out there that are suffering. They just want a place to talk without being
Mm,
judged. And so that's why I'm so passionate about bringing people, anybody on, to have that safe space to share their story. And once you hear those stories, you start to think, oh my gosh, I don't really have it so bad. Wow. And you listen to how they've overcome their obstacle, because there are obstacles you can't even fathom that people have been through, but they're here now and they want to help others through it. So by having these spaces, it has been life changing to be able to have people who are saying thank you for letting me come on here and share my story. And I'm like, man, the honor is mine. I'm just here to give you a place to share it, but you chose to come here and share it. Just like, I'm on here. It for me, it's such an honor to be on here because you have created this place for us to do that. And so that's, being able to have that and to be there for people is something that I wish I would have had 20 years ago.
yeah.
It's just so important now.
Yeah, that's great. And I acknowledge you for creating those mediums for other people to figure out how to tell their story, because sometimes it's not easy even to formulate that story. Do
Yes.
you actually help them formulate that story in a way that does heal and, stuff like that?
Yes, absolutely. I do. I've had so many people tell me, well, I don't really have a story to tell. And then we'll start talking. I said, are you kidding me? Everybody has a story, no matter what it is, even because we often think, oh, I haven't been through something bad enough. No, 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 no. You don't need to go through something so tragic to have a story. So we go through a timeline of events, or just things that they have gone through, whether it's professionally or personally. We all have a story to tell, and you just don't realize who else you can help or who else needs to hear it. So
Hmm.
yes, we talk it through, and then by the end of it, they're like, thank you. I didn't even know that. I didn't think I could make a difference. No, you absolutely can. You just don't even realize it.
Wow. Wow. So it just sounds like you do a great job as far as pulling potentially the best out in people. So which way, how, trying to think of the right words to say here. I'm going to give up doing it right. But how do you promote people's voices? Is it blog, podcast? Is that the way for the most part you do it?
Through I had the blog and through the podcast, or both. There's opportunities for people to submit their stories onto the website, and I share that, with their permission, of course. So I do. I give them opportunity to either write something, or they could be on the podcast and share it there.
Nice. Great. Great. And then that podcast, the truths that are not being shared, right? Like, are you getting people super honest inside of there and having them have conversations that are really not happening anywhere else?
I have the truths we hide. It's, we either laugh or we curse or we cry. It's one of the three, because it gets really personal, and I always just have people share as much as they want, but once you start getting them to talk through it, it's really amazing how vulnerable they get, and how they've overcome it. So yes, I mean, we've had people that have been raised in sex trafficking,
Mm,
in just everything. It's truly amazing.
yeah. And it's something that you wouldn't know how to connect with somebody unless you've gone through similar experiences, or you know how to create the safe space for that. So I acknowledge you for even creating a safe space for that to happen, because it's not easy for people to open up that way. So that's great. Thanks for doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So tell us more about A Wild Ride Called Life and this amazing podcast, The Truths We Hide. Like, what's the mission? Also, what's the vision? Where are you going with this?
Oh goodness. So, the mission really was I'm trying to end that stigma on mental health. I'm trying to really bring people together and no longer be afraid, embarrassed, ashamed, or anything, to honestly say, I go through this, but it's okay. And so that's really where that's going. But, I've been from all these people, I have gained the strength and the confidence to write a book. So that's the next step from all of you guys that have shown so much support, shown your vulnerability, shown your confidence. I mean, they've been some kick-ass people, so now I'm doing it. And that's the next huge thing from all of this. So I'm really excited.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, you have the Facebook page up. I'm excited to promote how they can continue to follow that here in a bit. But yeah, I mean, Ambitious Vet, if you're not already connected with Annette and what she's doing with a wild ride called Life, and the truths we hide, get connected, get plugged in, and find ways to formulate your story in a way that heals people, right? This has been powerful, up into this point around just you sharing how we just need to accept ourselves, accept our deepest wounds, our pains, stuff like that sometimes is it's hard to do. So thank you for giving us permission to just accept it.
That's, we need to work together to end the stigma, and stop the suicide.
Yeah, totally, totally. Well, we're going to go ahead and take a quick sponsor break to thank our sponsor, Ambitious Vet. Right when we get back, we're going to dive into Annette's 3 golden grenades that's going to help you to stay unstuck in your life. Stay tuned. Do you have a great story, Ambitious Vet? Why not wear something that has one too? At Original Grain, they create handcrafted watches which feature sustainable, reclaimed, and repurposed material that tell a story. It's more than a watch. It's a conversion piece. Each timepiece is one of a kind, just like you. Find your perfect match now by visiting originalgrain.com. Make sure to enter in code AMV Network 10 to get your 10% military discount. Again, that's originalgrain.com. Enter in promo code AMV Network 10 to receive your 10% military discount. All right, what's going on, Ambitious Vet? We're right back inside the trenches with Annette Whittenberger. She's been dropping in golden grenades that I hope just gives you the permission to understand that, hey, if you're feeling anxiety, if you're feeling depression, if you're feeling post-traumatic stress, right? Just allow yourself to feel that. Let it go. Find ways to plug in to a new community like a wild ride called life and make a game out of it, right? I'm excited to see how you, Annette, sum this whole show up with 3 gold grenades to keep us unstuck. What's the first one?
Absolutely. So I mentioned before, it is okay to not be okay. So I just like to remind people of that because, no matter what we're going through, don't let anybody steal your sunshine. It's okay to be in that space. Just take a break and come back. Keep showing up for yourself, if not for anybody else. The next one is use that mess and make it into your message. That's the biggest thing that I have learned to do is use my mess and make it into my message. So no matter what you go through, you could turn it around and make it into a positive thing. You really can. You don't know who you can help with the things that you have gone through. And the last one is give yourself grace. That's been one of the hardest things for me to do. But once I started to do that, I can't even tell you. It's huge. So give yourself grace.
Yeah, that's great. I love the last one. I think just providing yourself grace and allowing yourself to watch Netflix sometimes when you just feel tired and not beat yourself up when you're on the couch watching Netflix, and just enjoy it, right?
Yes.
That's really key. Yeah. So where can people find out more, Annette, with A Wild Ride Called Life, and even how to be a part of this amazing book launch that's projected to be in 2021? Where can they be a part of this ride with you?
Thank you. Yes, so you could go to awildridecalledlife.com and you can actually sign up to be part of the book launch on that website.
Nice. Awesome. So Ambitious Vet, I challenge you to definitely get a part of that. If you have had a wild ride called life, first couple of years out of the uniform, or if you're like me and Annette that's had a wild ride called life since we could walk, I encourage you to be a part of that book launch, be a part of something bigger than yourself. And maybe, just maybe, your story will be told around her journey, her community, and stuff like that. So, Annette, just thank you for joining the Ambitious Vet Show. You are amazing. Thank you for being courageous and saying yes to your purpose. And with that being said, we're going to head out. Take care.
The Ambitious Vet is available on all popular podcast platforms. Go to vettrainingcoaching.com to subscribe, rate, and share with fellow vets.
Again, today's show is brought to you by Combat Flip-Flops. If you're ready, Ambitious Vet, to wear the apparel, the footwear, the accessories that are made from some of the most dangerous places on the planet, check out combatflipflops.com. Take advantage of their lifetime warranty and all their proprietary features that they just consistently create and innovate to keep your soul healthy, refueled, and I think what they say on their website is it's a cigar for your soul. So if that intrigues you, check out combatflipflops.com. Make sure to enter in code AMV Network to take advantage of your 25% military discount. Again, that's combatflipflops.com.